Hi, Year 12. Just going to be doing a step-by-step explanation of a question like this on the board. In the Excel book, it's going to be question 13. And in the expansion of open brackets 1 plus 2x close bracket to the power of n, where n is a positive integer, the coefficient of x squared is 8 times the coefficient of x. Find the value of n. First thing what we're going to want to do is use our theorem to expand this bracket. So if we've got our first one, it's going to be 1 to the power of n as our first term here. Then we want to do the next one, where it's going to be n choose 1 times 1 to the power of n subtract 1 times our b term, which is 2x. If we do our second term, it's going to be n choose 2 times 1 to the power of n subtract 2 times open bracket 2x squared. Well, we can actually know what I'm going to simplify this now, so then turn it into 4x squared. So here we've now got our coefficient of x and our coefficient of x squared here. However, when we've got our n choose 1, we need to find out what n is. So the way I'm going to want to do that, which is why I've written this equation up here, we're going to change our n choose 1 and write it out in this equation. So let's do it first of all for our coefficient of x for here. So we've got n choose 1. We've got n, the r equals n, exclamation mark, n subtract r, exclamation mark. Okay, let's now sub in our values there. So it'll stay as n, exclamation mark, n subtract 1 times 1, exclamation mark. What I want to do now, we just want to simplify this and try and get rid of our factorials. So the way we're going to want to do that is like this. Where if it's n factorial, for this first bit, starts off so it can be anything after n multiplying by itself. So we can start off with n, and it'll be times n subtract 1, times n subtract 2, n subtract 3, and so on and so forth. We'll keep on going, and we could keep on going because we don't know how big n is. So I'm just going to keep it as n subtract 3, but I can keep on going. For this one here, it would then be n subtract 1 factorial. So then it would also be, so we're starting off this time at n subtract 1, then it would then be n subtract 2 times n subtract 3, and so on and so forth. And then we'll times it by 1 factorial, which is just 1, so I don't need to write that down. So this is now the equation we've got, where it's n over, where it's on top we've got n times n subtract 1 times n subtract 2, and so on and so forth. And on the bottom we've got n subtract 1, n subtract 2. And that's dot, 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 dot. So what we can now do, as this will all be carrying on, we can now cancel out or cancel down our fraction to get rid of our n subtract 1s, n subtract 2s, n subtract 3s, and our dot dot dots. So we can just get n. Just get n. So for this bit here on our equation, our expression when we had, where it was n choose 1, that would just be then n. Okay. Let's now do it for our n choose 2, which we had for our coefficient of x squared. So come back over here. Let's do it properly from the very beginning while I have the formula. Okay, so if you want to try and do this with me, we're subbing in our numbers now for when we've got n and r is 2. For our next bit here, I'm going to write it out again like this. n times n subtract 1 times n subtract 2. We'll stop there. Let's dot dot dot. For our denominator, n subtract 2 times n subtract 3 times n subtract 4. Dot dot dot. But then we've also got our 2 factorial, so that's also then going to be multiplied by 2 here. We need to remember that. We can now cancel down. We've got n subtract 2, n subtract 3, 4, dot dot dot. So we're then going to get over here n, open brackets, n subtract 1 over 2. So that would then be our bit here, whereas n choose 2 would then be equal to that. So to actually find now our coefficients, which is what we're trying to find, we've got to also remember that all of this here is going to be our coefficient of our x term, where this, which is over here, which is n, will be n times 1, which is just n, times 2x. So that would be 2n. So our coefficient of our x will be 2n. And then when we try to do our coefficient of x squared, we've got our n choose 2, which is over here. And then that's times 1, which is again just the same, and then that's multiplied by 4. So if I can multiply the top bit of this fraction by 4, I'm going to get this as 4 n, open brackets, n subtract 1 over 2. And then what it says, if we go back to our question, it says the coefficient of x squared is 8 times the coefficient of x. So 8 times the coefficient of x, this is our coefficient of x, so it's 8 times that. And then they're equal. We've now got an equation we can solve to find x. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do, let's multiply out this bracket to get then 16n equals, I'm going to keep this bracket like this. We can divide it by 2 as well, which is good. So we can do 16n equals 2n over brackets n subtract 1. Now let's divide by 2n to both sides to then get 8 equals n subtract 1. Add 1 now to both sides. We're going to get 9 equals n. And that is our answer for this. Obviously you can see there's a lot of maths on our board, but it's doing it step by step to try and work out that our value of n is going to be 9. Okay, I've got another question like this I'd like you to give a go and let me know how you get on. Thanks guys.